Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Traditional Sunday community chatter, fundraising stream. Although, of course, as always, I have prepared a news segment for you in which I will share quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to. For potential new members, I will just explain that on Sundays, the stream is mainly focused on a community charter. Although, as I said, new segment will definitely be there. Also, dear friends, from tomorrow, I plan to do some changes in the schedule. I want to double down on content. I myself not really sure how program's gonna go, but they're gonna be more content. So whenever you have a time, just check out the channel. Most likely, we will see some video that is new. What else I wanted to share, dear friends? Hopefully, there is no issue with Rumble. It's working. Okay, great. Anya is telling me that it's working. For whatever reason, there was some issue with the connection through StreamYard to Rumble. I cannot see on the StreamYard chat comments from Rumble, but Anya will make a screenshot of your questions, and I will highlight questions or the comments from Rumble anyways, right? So, okay, that's been said, dear friends, because this is a fundraising stream that we have on Sundays, you can, if you want to, of course, you can donate to the channel through PayPal, through Boosty platform. There is a crypto option, dear friends, also. I was thinking that my crypto wallet is no longer working because there was a very, very long pause. There was no donations through crypto. And just a few minutes before I launched this live stream, I checked my wallet and there was a donation through LTC cryptocurrency. So I guess it does work. And many thanks to a member of community who donated through LTC. So also during the streams, dear friends, you can use a super chat or round feature on Rumble or become a premium subscriber there. I am streaming on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble always. Okay, that's been said, enough for an intro, and let's start with the news now. And first of all, I will share with you this report from TASS news agency that Russian air defense systems during the past 24 hours intercepted 72 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with assistance of its NATO backers. Also, a number of missiles. Let me give you some details on that. So, air defense forces shut down 9 HIMARS multiple launch rocket system projectiles, Neptune long-range missile, and 72 drones in the past 24 hours. Russian Defense Ministry reported. The ministry also highlighted that the Russian air it's the same stuff. Usually there is always an additional comment there that in response, Russian militaries conducted a long-range precise strike on enemy military and logistical infrastructure, energy infrastructure. And we have a report on that also from TASS news agency with the headline that Russian armed forces struck the fuel and energy infrastructure of the Ukrainian armed forces. So in the past 24 hours, Russian troops struck Ukrainian armed forces and the mercenary deployment points, as well as the fuel and energy infrastructure facilities. This was reported by Defense Ministry. The ministry reported that Russian attack drones, tactical aviation, missile units, and artillery struck fuel and energy system facilities supporting Ukraine's defense industry. Russian forces also struck temporary garrisons of foreign mercenaries and Ukrainian armed forces in 137 different areas on Kiev-controlled territory, relatively large-scale Russian retaliatory strikes. And when it comes to these Russian strikes, by the way, of course, you have all seen when Iran drones are targeting their enemy infrastructure or enemy positions, you have seen aftermath or the strikes themselves of Russian cruise missiles, tactical missiles, and quite often also strikes with the Russian FAB glide bombs. And I can show you quite impressive short video, dear friends, of one of such Russian FAB strikes on positions. In this particular case, Russian aviation targeted the point of deployment of Kiev regime's forces that were focused on drone launches. And just take a look at this video, dear friends. It is quite impressive. It's a powerful strikes, by the way. Obviously, nothing can survive in the epicenter of this explosions. I can show you once again. I was impressed, by the way. No wonder, as a result of these strikes, if somehow anyone avoided death, then most likely they have a concussion, because change in the pressure, and I mean, it's just it's total hell in the epicenter of such strikes. And probably you have noticed, dear friends, Russian aerospace forces significantly increase not just the volume of strikes on the military industrial facilities or on military deployment points, but also accuracy of these FAB strikes increase tremendously. Just a couple of days ago, in one of my updates, I shared a video when Russian Air Force was targeting with there was also 4 FAB bombs, some tree line where Kiev regime's forces were concentrated, and every single FAB bomb struck right next to each other, exactly on these tree lines. So precision of these glide bombs definitely increasing big time. It's just noticeable if you have been paid attention to this. And the range of these FAB strikes with glide bombs also increasing on regular basis. Let's continue with some other news. And well, yet again, the Russian media is reporting about situation in on a line of contact when Kiev regime's so-called detachment units are killing their own military personnel that is either withdrawing or retreating from the positions or trying to surrender. And we have this report that Ukrainian armed forces eliminated basically a group of their own comrades for attempting to surrender. This morning I saw a number of Russian media outlets that one of the groups in the Kharkov region contacted Russian militaries and were organizing safe surrender. This group was left basically without any supply by their commanding officers, and they were using last remnants of their batteries in a radio to contact Russian side while they had such opportunity. And I guess a movement of this group was noticed by these detachment units that Kiev regime is deploying. Usually it's neo-Nazi formations or foreign mercenaries, and they eliminated this group. So Ukrainian drones destroyed a group of Ukrainian armed forces soldiers who were attempting to surrender to Russian forces in the Kharkov region. Excuse me. Report from TASS news agency says one of the front line on one of the front lines in the Kharkov region, a group of Ukrainian servicemen who had been without provision or command support for a long time was neutralized by Ukrainian armed forces themselves with the drone attacks. This unit tried to contact the Russian side, but were intercepted by their own drones. There were many of them, security officials reported. They clarified that at least 6 Ukrainian soldiers were killed as a result of these drone attacks on them by these Ukrainian detachment units. TASS previously reported that Ukrainian command left Ukrainian armed forces soldiers without provision and water as a punishment for abandoning an assault attempt. According to Russian security forces, the exhausted and dehydrated soldiers of the Kiev regime were physically unprepared for the assault. So unfortunately, yet another unit of most likely forcefully mobilized people by Kiev regime were neutralized on the battlefield by their own so-called comrades, which is at this point, this is becoming quite a regular occurrence on the line of contact. Probably you have all seen videos of executions, point blank on point blank range executions of the Kiev regime's soldiers that retreated from their positions. I cannot show you that kind of videos on YouTube or Rumble for understandable reasons, but on my Telegram I did share at least several times such videos. It's a lot of it that are circulating on internet. So it's a usual occurrence, and that's why, by the way, more often than not, Kiev regime's forces, this forcefully mobilized military personnel, is deserting, trying to run away from line of contact and hide somewhere, because I guess they think they have more chances to survive that way than to contact Russian side and surrender, because they know, I mean, this surrender process, to organize it in a safe manner, always takes some time, I guess, and this time is enough for this detachment or blocking neo-Nazi formations and the foreign mercenaries that Kiev regime is deploying, so that they are able to then track this surrendering Ukrainian military personnel and kill them. Well, tragic story there. What can I say? Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that, well, according to Axios, a U.S. So-called media outlet, Trump and Zelensky discussed their supply of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine by phone conversation that they had yesterday, I believe, yesterday or day before. So U.S. President Donald Trump spoke by phone with Vladimir Zelensky about the possible transfer of American-made Tomahawk long-range missiles to Kiev. Axios reported. According to this media outlet, Trump and Zelensky discussed the possibility of such a transfer. The report also notes that their conversation between the leaders took place on Saturday and lasted approximately 30 minutes. Sources cited by Axios did not specify whether Trump had made any final decision on the matter. And well, I don't know what is your take on this topic, defense of Tomahawk missiles, but usually what is happening whenever some talks are beginning in the West about deployment of certain weapon systems to Kiev-controlled territory against Russia, those weapons already are there. So I think it is highly likely that Typhoon launchers, that's only launchers that are capable of launching this usually Navy-based cruise missiles. Probably these Typhoon launchers are already either somewhere in European, on the territory of European NATO member states, or maybe even on a Kiev-controlled territory itself. And yet again, Moscow responded on this topic of Tomahawk missiles, not the first time, because it is a serious stuff. Not because Tomahawk or any other weapon system can be actually game changer or turn the tide on the battlefield. No, this is impossible, and Russian military leadership, political leadership was very clear on that. But topic is important and very serious and dangerous, because Tomahawk missiles are nuclear capable missiles, right? And Peskov spoke about exactly that capability of this missile. The possible supply of American Tomahawk missiles to Kiev is causing Moscow's extreme concern. Russian presidential press secretary Dmitry Peskov told Vegeterka journalist Pavel Zarubin, we have quotes here, the Tomahawk issue is causing an extreme concern, and the Russian President Vladimir Putin has already spoken about this, Peskov said, commenting on the statements by U.S. Permanent Representative to NATO Matthew Whitaker that Ukraine could be supplied with some kind of special weapon that could turn the tide on the front line. And I reported in my previous updates about the statements of Whitaker. Kremlin spokesman emphasized that there are many statements have indeed been made, and they still need to be sorted out. We are carefully recording them all, he said. Remember, and another quote, remember the reports from our intelligence services a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, about the information that Ukrainian Kiev regime could make some kind of so-called dirty bomb. This is their atomic bomb, by the way, Peskov is talking about. Imagine a long-range missile taking off and flying. We know it could be nuclear armed. What should the Russian Federation think? Military experts overseas should understand this, Peskov said, answering a question about whether Moscow considered the possibility that if Kiev acquired Tomahawk missiles, the missile could be nuclear armed when launched, and Moscow does considers that as a potential risk, understandably so. And if you remember, dear friends, I was always saying for quite a while at least, that during the next phase of escalation, globalists, among other steps, escalatory steps, may also launch a process of transformation of this terrorist regime in Kiev into a nuclear-armed terrorist regime. I remind you, dear friends, there was reports quite a number of times about increased radiation levels in Odessa port area. There was other reports, including in the Western media outlets. Ground was prepared basically with such reports that Kiev regime is in a position to build not just one, two, or a few more, but hundreds of basic atomic bombs. That's how much radioactive materials Kiev regime possess due to active work of nuclear power plants. And one of the side products of their power plants, by the way, is radioactive materials, including plutonium, right? And you think why Western so-called media outlets were pushing this narrative that Kiev regime is in a position to build atomic bombs? Most likely, this type of narrative was pushed by Western controlled media to prepare ground for a possible transformation by the West itself of a Kiev regime into a nuclear-armed regime. And I think Moscow clearly is also considering such a possibility, such a risk. Otherwise, Peskov would not even comment on the matter, right? And I can tell you, dear friends, Kiev regime, I'm not sure Kiev regime on its own is capable of building dirty bombs or atomic bombs, but with assistance of US and British specialists, they clearly can end up in a position of such weapon systems. And when it comes to reckless policies of the Washington and London and other capitals of the NATO member states, you understand that nothing can be ruled out. Literally, I mean, nothing can be ruled out, no matter how crazy this or that scenario might look. Because when you are dealing with the Western so-called elites, I mean, you are dealing with insane elements, right, that are capable of literally anything. So very serious topic, of course, and Moscow pays close attention, and for many, many reasons. And also, dear friends, when it comes to hostility of NATO towards Russia, and in this particular case, US hostile steps towards Russia, we have this report today that US has been helping the regime to strike deep into Russian territory for many months. United States has been helping the Ukrainian armed forces attack Russian energy facilities for several months, according to Financial Times. And that means that this was authorized by Trump himself, right? So according to US officials, Ukraine selected targets for long-range strikes, and Washington then provided intelligence on the vulnerabilities of these facilities, their newspaper writes, citing sources. According to Financial Times, the intelligence allegedly allowed US intelligence allegedly allowed the destruction of critical targets, including oil refineries, with US intelligence helping Ukraine determine the route, altitude, and the timing of their attacks. And of course, this report is not coming to us as some sort of a surprise. Russian leadership, I mean, how many times Russian leadership has said that Kiev regime has no capabilities to orchestrate these long-range strikes, either with their missiles that they are being provided by the NATO countries or by the drones, for that matter. All this intelligence, flight path, navigation, targeting data, everything is coming from their NATO countries, right? And we have confirmation, basically, of this information that we already know, just additional confirmation from Western so-called media outlet, Financial Times. And based on these revelations, by the way, it is becoming ever more difficult to understand, of course, still relatively polite and extremely diplomatic attitude of Russian leadership towards current administration of US. This attitude, and I'm not saying that Russian leadership should use some extreme language characterizing the US administration or anything like that. No, but Extreme politeness is definitely irritating because we are talking about our enemies, right? Trump is an enemy of Russia and directly guilty of death of Russian civilians and the militaries. His administration is directly guilty of death of Russian civilians and Russian militaries. Pentagon is guilty, CIA is guilty, and whole of administration there, right? And to stay polite towards these criminals, actual criminals and mass murderers that U.S. administration is, I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. This is no longer politics or diplomacy. It just makes no freaking sense. Period. Right? Don't say nothing. But if you don't want to escalate, but if you're in your statements, you are still maintaining some politeness, while hoping, I guess, that you can still find some common ground with those psychopaths. That's a mistake. That's a mistake, in my personal opinion. But anyways, just another confirmation, by the way, that U.S. administration, current as well as their previous one, was directly engaged there in these longer range strikes on Russia and directly guilty of death of Russian civilians and military personnel and destruction of civilian infrastructure. It's just, it is what it is. Meanwhile, we have this reporter from RT, for example, that Zelensky is not happy still with levels of deliveries of Western weapon systems, especially long-range weapon systems. And he's asking not just for Tomahawk missiles, that probably formally he will get her, but he's asking for 10 times more ATACMS missiles too, and says that 40 to 50 missiles are nothing, according to him. Okay, by the way, I don't think U.S. has in its position like thousands of those ATACMS missiles. Reports were earlier that more than 500 of those missiles already was transferred to Kyiv regime, more than 500, by the way. So I don't think Washington can actually significantly increase deliveries of these weapon systems, especially because ATACMS no longer being produced, if I remember correctly. ATACMS missiles no longer produced by U.S. military industrial complex, and I remember recently reading an article that U.S. military industrial complex plans to resume production of these missiles because stockpiles are just too low. But you see, we have more and more indicators that this next phase of escalation that West will most likely launch in a relatively short time will definitely including either unprecedented scale of long-range attacks on Russian Federation, potentially even attempt of decapitation strike on political and military leadership, massive terrorist attacks inside the Russian territory with their Western assets. And unfortunately, I'm afraid Western secret services do have assets on Russian territory. That's why Russian FSB is basically 24/7 is working, and literally on daily basis, officers of FSB, Federal Security Service, are neutralizing different elements, different groups that were organizing some terrorist attacks. And simultaneously, with this next phase of escalation, Russia should expect and be ready as much as possible for massive cyber attack on Russian infrastructure. This next phase of escalation is coming, unfortunately. There is no indicators that will tell us that there is any de-escalation on the horizon, because there is none. When it comes to this escalation, we also have this report, which is somewhat related. Belgium will receive its first 4 F-35s from the US in October, which will open the way for their deliveries of Belgium F-16s to Kyiv regime. Belgium Foreign Minister Theo Franken told their newspaper already quite a number of F-16s being transferred. US-made F-16s, by the way, being transferred formally to Kyiv regime, although I'm quite sure pilots on these F-16s are from NATO countries in most of the cases. Same can be said about French Mirage 2000s. I don't believe Mirage 2000s being piloted by Kyiv regime's pilots. It's NATO pilots, most likely. And whatever additional planes formally going to be delivered to Kyiv regime, more F-16s, or there are reports about Swedish Saab Gripens being prepared for transfer. those planes will be operated also mainly by NATO pilots, I think. So yes, yet another information that is indicating this next phase, inevitability of this next phase of escalation. And I'm paying big attention to deployment of Air Force, especially because we'll understand that to launch massive missile strikes, drone and missile strikes, significant number of planes have to be used. Kiev regime itself don't really has left that many planes, right, to launch 100 or 200 or I don't know 300 cruise missiles at once. But NATO countries do have enough airplanes in their disposal to use them for launches of these missiles, and then to say that it was a Kiev regime, right, to play with plausible deniability. And that's why, by the way, recent hysteria in Europe around drones and the Russian planes and so on was used to deploy more and more planes by NATO countries right next to, closer to Russian and Belarusian borders, right? And at this point, by the way, I think NATO has its in its disposal at least few hundred, by the way, planes that are capable of launching cruise missiles to strike deep into Russia. And they're gonna get more of the planes because, yet again, on 13th, and that is tomorrow, by the way, tomorrow Belgium will receive a first batch of F-35s, and they will begin transferring their F-16s to Kiev regime, formally to Kiev regime, but it will be piloted by NATO pilots, of course. RT is also reporting that, Kremlin responded on hostile steps from Moldovan government. Moldova makes a grave mistake by antagonizing Russia, according to Kremlin. And this is true. This is true, by the way. Moldova is destined to full-scale disintegration, in my personal opinion. And the more hostile current or Western-controlled regime in Moldova will get her, sooner this full-scale disintegration will happen. But give it 5, 10, maximum 15 years, and they're going to be no Moldova on the political map. Absolutely sure about it. But let's go through details here. The authorities of Moldova are making a grave mistake by pursuing confrontation with Russia. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated earlier this week the Moldavian government, under pro-EU President Mayer Sandu, adopted a new security strategy identifying Moscow as the main threat and accusing it of waging a high-intensity hybrid war against the country. The document claims the former Soviet Republic has been profoundly affected by the Ukraine conflict, which it described as a Russian aggression. Moscow has repeatedly denied meddling in Moldova's internal affairs, saying the Ukraine conflict was provoked by the West and Russia is only defending itself. Peskov told us that Chinsau, that's a Kishinev, by the way. I don't know why in English this sounds Chinsau. I have no freaking idea. It's a Kishinev, capital of Moldova. So Kishinev strategy is a continuation of a rather confrontational line towards our country. From our point of view, the current leaders of Moldova are making a grave mistake. They believe that their line of building up relations with Europe implies the full antagonization of Russia. He said, once country has already made such a mistake, it did not bring any good to this one country, the spokesman added, referencing Ukraine, where Western-backed coup in 2014 overthrew its elected government and led to the deterioration of Moscow-Kiev relations and their armored conflicts. And so, yes, by the way, Moldovan people have to wake up and rebel against their government. They have to take up arms. Only way Moldovan people can defend themselves from this Western-controlled terrorist regime of Sandu is to take up arms and just kill them all, right? Let's be real here. Moldovan people have to exterminate Western assets in their country. This is a full stop. There is no but after that. That's it, man. If people of Moldova want to live in peace and maintain their statehood, they have to rebel against this occupying regime of the NATO. They are enemies, and enemies have to be exterminated, period. There is nothing to discuss there whatsoever. It's Glad newspaper, and they try elections. People did try to win through elections, to regain control over their countries through legal means, through elections, constitutional steps. It did not work, did it? Just recently there was parliamentary elections, remember? And according to statistics, by the way, here in Russia alone, there is over 300,000 Moldavian citizens that are alleged to vote, right? And you think how many ballots, how many polling stations were open in Russia, and how many ballots were sent by Chisinau? 10,000 ballots for 300 plus thousand people, and only two polling stations. What the hell? What the hell is that, man? Is that can be called election? Really? No. This is an illegal terrorist regime that is implemented in Moldova by NATO. This regime is the enemy of Moldavian people, and those people have to rebel, take up arms, and exterminate this enemy, period. If they want to have a chance at least to reclaim their own country and have a say in their own future. Let's be real here, man. I'm not playing no freaking politcorrect games or something like that. It is what it is, man. And they have a quite good example what will happen if they will not rebel. They can see what happened to Kiev control territory, the so-called Ukraine. People let to slide the coup d'etat. Majority of people on Kiev control territory did not rebel. Donbass rebelled, by the way. LPR, people in LPR, DPR rebelled, right? There was attempts, by the way. There was attempts in the Kharkov region, Dnipropetrovsk region, even in Kiev. But most of the society, because I don't know why, maybe they were afraid. Maybe they were thinking that nothing will happen. For whatever reason, majority did not support these groups that were clearly saying that this regime change, this coup d'etat, will bring down Ukraine, and they have to rebel against it. So as a result, we have seen what we have seen, right? In regards to Ukraine, Moldova is risking to repeat the same mistakes if people would not rebel. Period. And of course, I mentioned that people rebel after 2014 coup d'etat in Kiev, in Donbass, and also in Crimea, and there was then elections, and these regions, as well as the Zaporozhye and Kherson regions, made decision to join Russian Federation, and they are part of Russia now, and safe, right? They have a future. While on Kiev controlled territory, God knows it's a hell. It's total hell, by the way. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. Glad newspaper is reporting that more than 100 EU and their US citizens have requested asylum in Russia in 2025. And this number might grow, actually, because year is not finished yet. Let me give you some details. The citizens of 14 EU countries and the United States have applied for a temporary asylum in Russia from January to June 2025. RIA Novosti reports in total 119 applications were received by internal affairs agencies from the EU residents, and another 14 from US citizens, which is quite interesting, by the way. German citizens were most frequent asylum seekers, submitting 56 applications. Latvia and Lithuania also made up top three with 20 and 12 applications respectively. And dear friends, I'm quite sure this number gonna go substantively in upcoming years, because from what I read or from what I listen, Europe is going down, by the way. Citizens of Europe are experiencing more and more difficulties, especially when it comes to defending their traditional values, and they are not okay with that. And I expect this little wave, by the way, to transform into massive tsunami of migration towards Russia, and some of their people will use this direction. They will apply for asylum, right? There are many thousands of citizens of Western countries that are avoiding this asylum applications. They are directly asking for citizenship and going through all the bureaucratic steps. But I think asylum can fast track this process, right? And once Westerners that want to migrate to Russia will realize that this asylum application might fast track for them this process to become Russian citizens, more and more people will use this opportunity. Quite sure about it. So, and dear friends, before I continue, let me highlight, if I may, that this is a fundraising and a stream and community chat, dear friends, and also of course news segment. Also, of course, news segment. I see here there was a super chat, dear friends, from Daniela Modos on Rumble, and of course, I will highlight this super chatter after news segment. And there was also on PayPal, right? There was donation on PayPal too, and I will highlight, of course, this. After the news segment. I will just say that links, dear friends, if you want to donate or support, links are on this video in the description box, and there will be in a pinned comment after stream ends links to my PayPal, Boosty. There is a crypto wallet also, and wow, I'm so positively surprised, by the way, that this crypto wallet actually works, because there was at least several months, by the way, there was no donation through crypto. And lately, I even start removing crypto address from pinned comment, because I was thinking that it just does not work no more. But it does, because as I said, some member of community send a donation through LTC, and many thanks to this person. And so yes, there is a link under this video, dear friends, and also you can use super chat feature on Rumble, or become a premium member there. And let's not forget Patreon, dear friends. You can support through Patreon, and this is immensely important, because Patreon allows me to know upfront what kind of funds I have for next month. And Boosty does the same, right? I have pages on both platforms, so you can consider to join our communities on Patreon and Boosty too. That will be obviously a great support, and many thanks to everybody who already supported and continues to support. Okay, that's being said, dear friends, let's continue. A lot of news next left, and next is of course Middle East, dear friends. We have this report from TASS news agency that Hamas is ready to hand over 20 hostages to Israel as early as October 12th. That is today. Initially, this report was shared by Wall Street Journal, citing sources. Seems like this first stage of agreement between Hamas and Israel is sort of a holding. Although there are numerous reports, by the way, that Israeli military still are shelling the Gaza and are opening the fire, right? But in general, general assumption is that despite these incidents, mainly ceasefire is kind of holding, and it will most likely it will for time being. Once, as I said from the beginning, by the way, I don't believe in this 20-pointer Trump's so-called peace plan. Once Hamas will release all Israeli hostages, I'm quite sure Israeli Secret Services, with assistance of U.S. Secret Services, British Secret Services, will orchestrate false flag operation. They will blame that on Palestinians, and that they will resume military operations. I have no doubts about it. Unfortunately, I mean, we cannot trust no Israeli regime, no regimes in among Israeli allies, right? It's just not possible, and therefore, unfortunately, I'm not optimistic about a long-standing peace in this part of the world. I even think there is a high probability that in relatively short time, Israel, US, and number of their allies will again strike Iran, even in an attempt to orchestrate not just a regime change there, but to provoke regional war. And I have spoke about such risks quite a few times before. But when it comes to Gaza developments, we have also this report that Hamas has refused to participate in a Gaza summit in Egypt. So Palestinian movement Hamas will not participate in their peace summit in Sharm el-Sheikh to mark their signing of a ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip. As for their official signing, we will not be present. Hamas Politburo member Hassan Bardan or Badran told the agency France Press, and well, maybe this is a decision of Hamas not to be present, or maybe this was demand from Israeli side and the American side that Hamas is not represented in this summit that's gonna take place tomorrow, isn't it? And Trump is traveling to Middle East. He will stay on Israel for several hours. Then he will move to Egypt to basically take part in this media op. That's what it is, right? Because yet again, me and I guess majority of our community understands perfectly well that unfortunately there is next to none chances that this ceasefire or peace will hold in this part of the world. Only way we can have sustainable peace in the Middle East is if Israel is demilitarized and denazified. It's just clear as day, right? And I did not see in these agreements anything about demilitarization and denazification of Israel. So that said it all, right? Also, according to reports, Iran had received their invitation to participate in this ceremony, a media op, basically, that Trump will also join on to sign this truce, temporary truce, and Iran refused. Iran turned down Trump's invitation to Gaza peace plan signing. This was reported by Tasnim news agency, and I did share this information this morning on my Telegram and Twitter X pages. Earlier, dear friends, I reported that US was planning to deploy about 200 of its military personnel to Gaza to monitor ceasefire, and we have reports now that US troops actually arrived in Israel to do this part of their mission, monitoring. But yet again, this is US troops. Do you think US troops going to report about Israeli armed forces breaking the ceasefire? I mean, is anybody in this world actually believes that US troops will report about crimes that Israel is committing? No way. No way. It's not possible, right? So I have questions about deployment of these US troops, by the way. Maybe something else is behind this deployment. Today, it's about a couple of hundred. Tomorrow, this number might increase to, I don't know, 10,000. And we all remember what Trump said about Gaza Strip. What was his attitude? He was openly talking about ethnic cleansing, right? And forcing all the survivor Palestinians out of the region. So maybe something ground is being prepared exactly to conduct this ethnic cleansing, because Israeli forces clearly failed to achieve any military success on a battlefield. Probably this is coming as a shock for many, because advertising was quite good of Israeli army, right? Everyone was saying that IDF is this powerful and that powerful and can do anything, and well, they cannot even defeat Hamas. They cannot even defeat Hamas, brother. So they are not that powerful, really. It's a sort of paper tiger. All they can do is kill civilians in mass. Yes, they can do that, and they prove it, right? They killed hundreds of thousands of civilians. They conducted genocide, right? And massive war crimes and crimes against humanity. They did it. But when it comes to military, when it comes to fight against legit combatants, right? they didn't really manage to achieve much. Hamas is still strong and fights back, right? And maybe because of this development, US now plans to provide ground support for Israel. And maybe this deployment of, on first stage, a few hundred of American troops is a preparation of the ground for next phase. I don't know what American people are going to think about it, but many of them probably will be upset to see their militaries participating directly in the genocide of innocent people in Palestine. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Iran has ceased cooperation with the IAEA. So Iran has suspended the cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency and postponed the implementation of the agreement reached in Egypt. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced the Cairo agreement is currently suspended and we have stopped cooperating with the IAEA on nuclear issues, he said live on Iranian TV. The minister noted that the request from IAEA to continue cooperation will first be considered by Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Araghchi previously noted that the Cairo agreement with the IAEA concluded on September 9 and establishing a framework for cooperation between their agency and Iran would be considered cancelled given their imposition of sanctions by their UN. And as you know, dear friends, a European number of European states, E3 so-called, and US obviously reimposed sanctions on Iran. And there is no point. There is no point now for Tehran to actually cooperate with the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, not just because of these sanctions, but because IAEA was used against Iran and to spy on Iran, right? And Iranian officials were quite open about it, that yes, IAEA so-called experts were working on behalf of Israel, right? While being allowed in Iranian nuclear facilities. So why would Iran continue cooperating with this formally UN body, but in reality a weaponized tool in hands of Israel, US, and UK? It's, I don't know, it's beyond my understanding. So I guess Tehran has finalized its stand on the issue, and they will no longer allow Israeli spies from IAEA to operate on their territories. Let's see. Things are changing very rapidly, isn't it? Today we have one report, tomorrow some complete opposite, and all this stuff is happening based on steps and statements of officials, right? So things are changing very, very rapidly. But anyways, let's continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Afghanistan has allegedly completed its retaliatory strikes against Pakistan. So Afghan Ministry of Defense announced the successful completion of their retaliation operation against Pakistan in response to repeated violations of Afghan airspace and Pakistani airstrikes. Afghanistan carried out retaliatory operations against the Pakistani security forces along the Durand Line, the border between the countries, which is not recognized by Kabul. The operation ended at midnight and was successful, says Afghanistani Defense Ministry. There was so many videos, dear friends, on the internet when this massive exchange of fire was happening. I even saw a report that Afghani Air Force targeted Pakistani territory, Lahore even, right? I was a bit surprised. I mean, Afghanistani Air Force, do they have an Air Force? Apparently they do. Maybe they mean helicopters being deployed or something, right? But nevertheless, I think we are far away from actual de-escalation between the two, because we have this report also that Pakistan has allegedly captured 19 Afghan border posts, according to media reports. So Pakistan has seized nearly 20 Afghan border posts following the clashes between the militants from the two countries. Pakistan has occupied 19 Afghan points along the border. The channel Geo reported, citing its sources. So I don't know if Pakistan is occupying now 19 Afghani border posts, then how fighting is ending. I don't know. It's anybody's guess. Most likely today we will receive more reports about fire being exchanged between the two. And well, I don't think Pakistan is in a position to actually mess with the Taliban or Afghanistan, because bordering regions of Pakistan with Afghanistan, I mean, their majority is Pashtuns there, right? Majority is Pashtuns, and it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard for Islamabad to force Pashtuns to submission. It's just impossible task, really. And what they will do if they will continue attacks on Afghanistan is they will incentivize Taliban to build up ties with their Baluchi, Baluchi groups, armed groups that are fighting for independence in Pakistan and also in Iran, by the way. And eventually Pakistan will face even more threats that it does faces now. So maybe better way forward for Islamabad will be to actually cooperate with Kabul, not to escalate. But yet again, this escalation, we should keep in mind that this escalation is coming literally days after Afghan foreign minister stated that Kabul will not allow US militaries back on Afghanistan territory. This was a response on Trump's demand that US military to be back on Bagram Air Base. Right, so probably all this escalation is related there. We will find out soon. Anyways, dear friends, we also have this quite interesting report, by the way, about militarization of Algeria, a big-time militarization. And on your screen right now, you have seen, you can see Russian Su-34 bomber, frontline bomber, with a desert camouflage. And I reported earlier that these planes were spotted and most likely were destined to be transferred there to Algeria. And also you can see also Russian support vehicle, Terminator, so-called, right, which is already being transferred to Algeria. And Algeria is one of the biggest buyers of Russian weapons, by the way. So this information is somewhat good for Russian military-industrial complex. Algeria continues to increase its military budget. The Algerian government has approved a record defense budget of $25 billion for 2026, the largest in the country's history. According to reports, the country's budget for 2026, entire budget, is $135 billion compared to 128 in 2025 and 113 in 2024. Significant increase in the budget there. Military spending now accounts for 20.6% of their national budget, which is massive, of course. The sharp increase began in 2022 when previously expenditures did not exceed $8 to $11 billion, but already in 2023 the military budget received $18 billion, and in 2024 $22 billion. And well, I guess a significant volume from this $25 billion budget for next year will come to Russian military-industrial complex, because yet again Algerian military is low Russian weapon systems for its reliability, relative simplicity and reliability, right? Russian weapons are not over-engineered as Western weapons are always, right? And this is significant developments, by the way, because we should keep in mind that Algeria has a very difficult relationships with its neighbor Morocco. Algeria has a quite difficult relationships with their number of European states, especially with France. And the history between Algeria and France goes, in dark places, right? There were some good episodes also, but mainly it's nothing good there in the relationships between France and Algeria. That was colonized by France, of course. And also Algeria has very difficult relationships with a number of Gulf states. Algeria is involved in the Libya situation. So it's an important player in North Africa. Algeria is an important state, of course, in North Africa. And because this country is getting militarized this massively, I mean, this is a not really good indicator, by the way. I guess some regional scale developments are on the horizon, even one might say, isn't it? Otherwise, I don't think Algeria will spend this much money on its defense. Either Algeria is getting ready to conduct certain moves, or Algerian intelligence services, Algerian leadership knows about potential aggression against it, and they are getting ready to defend themselves. Something is definitely going on there. Let's continue with some other news. And RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, there is a coup d'etat attempt, by the way, in Madagascar after a recent uprising in a country. Number of units, by the way, military units, now declaring themselves to be in charge of our army. They took a side of this uprising, these protesters, and we have this report from RIA that Madagascar Army Personnel Command Corps, which sided with the protesters, declared itself their country's military command, according to Madagascar media outlet. So COPSAT, this Army Personnel Command Corps statement, is that all instructions for the armed forces, whether land, air, or naval, will now originate from their camp. COPSAT is thus claiming to be their new source of military command, the newspaper wrote on Facebook. Also, COPSAT called on the other security agencies to follow its example. According to IFP, several groups of army soldiers joined their thousands of protesters in the capital. And this is, of course, tremendously dangerous developments, because we might actually see civil war in Madagascar if situation is not resolved and stabilized in upcoming days, max, because well, when army and security services are taking sides, by the way, right, that's always indicator that the civil war is next. And I don't think anyone will benefit from ordinary people, by the way, if Madagascar will dive into internal military confrontation. But situation is extremely difficult there. RT is also reporting that, well, Maduro, by the way, was playing some games, according to New York Times, head of Venezuela. And I don't know if you can believe this report of New York Times or not, but allegedly, Venezuela has offered the US sweeping economic concessions, including a potential agreement to allow American companies to take a major stake in its oil sector in a secret talks that lasted for a month. Again, this is New York Times report, by the way. Washington, however, is said to have rejected the deal, with their political future of Nicolas Maduro being their key sticking point. And well, this, if true, by the way, Moscow and Beijing and their, other allies of Venezuela definitely not gonna like this revelation. I don't think either Moscow or Beijing knew that Maduro was engaged in some secret talks with Washington, right behind the backs of allies of his countries. So, if true, then days of Maduro are numbered, by the way, because he cannot be trusted. And in that case, probably Moscow and Beijing will talk with Washington now to secure the investments in this country, and that's about it, right? When US will conduct a decapitation strike on Venezuela and the regime change, I think China and Russia will stay out of it. Yet again, if this report is correct and Maduro was trying to do some business with US behind the back of Russian and their Chinese allies. And both countries, by the way, Russia and China, has invested billions in Venezuelan economy, right? So this is dodgy move that definitely not brings any positive light to Maduro's personality, for sure. Let's see what is going to happen. By the way, I have said there many times before that if people of Venezuela will fight against recolonization of their country, in that case, US will fail to establish actual, factual, control over this Bolivarian republic, even if US will succeed in a regime change. They can they can take out Venezuela's political or military leadership, then put there anybody they want, this recent Nobel Peace Prize winner, for example, into a position of president. But what change that will make if people will reject this development? US will have control over some parts of Caracas, and that's about it, right? That's about it. If people will fight, US is gonna fail, by the way, big time. So it's all up to Venezuelan people and their attitude towards all these developments. But if report from New York Times is correct, and he was offering some dealings to Washington behind the back of Venezuela's allies, this is bad, man. This is bad. Maduro, by doing so, sign up for his death sentence, because I don't think Moscow and Beijing will even take him as a refugee now, right? Let's see. But yet again, this is New York Times, so therefore we should take this report with a pinch of salt, of course. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that, after recent meetings, a couple of meetings between Russian president and Azerbaijani leader Putin and Aliyev, after also phone conversation when Aliyev congratulated the Russian president with the birthday and so on. Even though there is no groundbreaking changes in the relationship between the two countries, some positivity is kind of happening. Although, of course, I don't believe relationships can be rebuilt until Aliyev is in power in Azerbaijan. But some positive steps being taken, and for example, Azerbaijan released a Sputnik Azerbaijan editor-in-chief, according to reports. So Russian journalists detained in Azerbaijan aimed at a recent diplomatic dispute has been released. Kremlin foreign policy aide Yuri Ushakov reported on Friday. So this is, of course, good step. But yet again, Aliyev crossed all the red lines. He escalated, Aliyev and his regime, by the way, they escalated against Russia on behalf of London, under the orders of London, and therefore I don't really see any real possibilities, relationships between Moscow and Baku being normalized under the leadership of, while there is Aliyev's regime in Azerbaijan. Unfortunately, point of no return has been crossed by Azerbaijani side. It's just too clear, too obvious to me personally. So therefore, it is good that some positive steps being taken, but this is not enough now. Trust is lost, right? Trust is not there. How Putin can trust Aliyev after what he did there, I have no freaking idea. So therefore, and how any Russian leader can trust anyone from current regime in Azerbaijan. There is no trust. You cannot trust them. They are bitches of the London, right? Prostitutes of the London. That's what they are, by the way, right? So that says it all. Man. RT is reporting, and I have no respect for them, obviously. I have no respect for Azerbaijan leadership. I have no respect towards prostitutes in general. That's it, man, right? And I don't give a fuck about women's rights activists too. But prostitution is a business and should be allowed. Fuck off, idiots, man. That's what I would say to those human rights activists that think prostitution is normal. It's not freaking normal, man. Anyways, I divert from a point, but yes, I have clear take on Azerbaijan leadership. Fuck him all, man. That's what. RT is also reporting that U.S. to impose 100% tariffs on China. Oh, this is another big topic, by the way. Another big topic that caused collapse, significant collapse in world economy, especially in the Western stock markets, right? So U.S. President Trump announced some 100% tariffs on China. President Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. will impose 100% tariffs on Chinese goods beginning November 1st, 2025, in response to what he described as Beijing's extraordinary aggressive new trade restrictions. On Thursday, Beijing, on its part, announced new export controls of certain strategic minerals that have dual-use military applications, saying the move was intended to protect national security and meet international obligations, including those related to non-proliferation. And well, this is a big deal. This is obviously a big deal because U.S. Military-industrial complex is significantly dependent on Chinese imports. On imports from China when it comes to these rare materials, right? And this move from Beijing is clearly demonstration that, well, they're not gonna take no nonsense from the Washington. And U.S. response is quite weak, man. U.S. response is what? 100% tariffs on Chinese goods. What that means? Trump gonna hurt her on top of whatever difficulties U.S. military-industrial complex and the technological sector gonna experience in general. He is now also hitting with 100% tariffs his own citizens, right? Because this is a not phantom, but or we can say phantom. This is phantom tax, right? Stealth tax, let's say, stealth tax on U.S. citizens, because eventually they're gonna pay more, right? As long as it's profitable, Chinese companies will sell stuff, right? And it's U.S. companies that gonna pay these freaking tariffs, and when they will pay these tariffs, they're gonna increase prices on the goods, right, to stay in business. So this is stealth tax, by the way, and seems like Trump struggles to understand this, that he is damaging U.S. economy with this tariff wars, and already damaged U.S. economy in very serious manner. I have seen reports, dear friends, U.S. agriculture is struggling immensely because due to trade war that Trump initiated during even his first term with China. Now Beijing or Chinese companies are almost refusing to buy any agricultural stuff from US. They have diversified their businesses, right? They are investing heavy in African nations, so they are investing heavy in Latin America, in Brazil, for example, and they are buying agricultural stuff from Brazil now and from Africa instead of US. And who started this? It's Trump who started this, right? Not now even, but during his first term. So I mean, okay, let's see how things gonna go from 1st of November. Expect prices to go up in space in US, by the way, right? Because I mean, this is quite unexpected move, right? So therefore, I don't think companies had that much time to stockpile goods from China, right? So it will take maybe a week or two, months, and stocks of the companies in America will dry out, and they will be forced to import Chinese goods and they pay 100% tariffs on that, right? And increase prices. Some people think it's Chinese that are gonna pay these tariffs, by the way. No, it's Americans that are gonna pay it, man. American companies. What is wrong with Trump, man? I don't know. And by the way, this is not all. Beijing warns of retaliation over U.S. tariffs, U.S. tariff ultimatum. So Beijing has made it clear that it won't yield to Washington's latest tariff threats, urging the United States to seek a negotiated settlement instead of escalating tensions. The warning came as a part of an official statement released by Chinese Ministry of Commerce on Sunday. The response followed US President Donald Trump's plan to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese imports, citing Beijing's new restrictions on rare earth exports, vital materials used in products from their smartphones to fighter jets. Chinese position on the trade war is consistent. We do not want it, but we are not afraid of it. And they are not, by the way, clearly. The ministry said the renewed friction threatens to derail a possible meeting between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, scheduled to take place on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea in late October or early November. And well, this is, by the way, this is not good. This when these major economies are engaged in this trade war, this is not good for nobody, actually, right? It does not benefit China, although China is more secure than US is, right? Economies. But nevertheless, sir, this is damaging for everybody, And I don't know, maybe Trump will reconsider his position and will back off from imposing 100% tariffs on China from 1st of November, because it's going to be damaging, man. China will do the same. They will mirror this step. They will impose 100% tariffs on American goods, right? And that will benefit China, actually, because Chinese companies will have an incentive to invest more in domestic production, right? In areas that they were kind of refusing maybe to invest, because imports from US were, doing its job, right? But now they will get a window opportunity, right, to invest, because if China will impose 100% tariffs on US goods, then these Chinese companies will be better off while producing certain stuff in China. If Chinese economy and Chinese businesses, man, demonstrated anything, it's how rapidly they can adapt. It's crazy, man, how rapidly they can adapt, man. I mean, it's incredible mindset the Chinese businessmen have, man. Right? And they are very fast. They are very fast, man. China is leading this world in electric vehicles. BYD is a leading company, by the way. Like 10 years ago, Musk was laughing at BYD. Is he laughing now? No. No. 10 years ago, by the way, 10, 15 years ago, Western companies that are operating in renewable energy were laughing at the ambitions of the Chinese companies. Do they laugh now? No, because Chinese companies in renewable are leading the business, leading this field. And I believe this year alone, they already exported, by the way, over $20 billion dollars worth of their goods, right? Technology and services and so on. Nothing to be said about unbelievable demand inside China itself. So they were able to deal with their internal demand and also even export stuff, right? And make money on that too. So $20+ billion. So it's I don't know, man. It's something extraordinary, really. So yes, that's been said, dear friends. Also, I will end new segment on this, I think, very important news, actually, that prominence of completely inadequate size has formed on the sun. Pritubiranets. I'm not sure if Pritubiranets is a prominence in a translation. Let me translate this word, dear friends. Just a sec. Prominence, yes, it is prominence. So, yes, let me continue. So, the huge prominence has been spotted on the Sun. The Solar Astronomy Laboratory of the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Science reported. And we have some quotes here. Meanwhile, a completely inappropriately sized prominence has formed in the northeast of the sun, according to a post on its Telegram channel. Scientists have noted that their sun is trying to throw it out into space piece by piece, but so far without success. There is a 90% chance that today or tomorrow, releasing the futility of these attempts, it will eject it. Well, there is a possibility, high possibility, that either today or tomorrow, Sun will manage to get rid of this prominence, and that will be a very bad day for Mercury, by the way, right? Because Mercury will go through this plasma wave. But if this situation continues for another 3-4 days, then it will be a bad day for our planet. If this thing manages to cling to the sun and stay there for another 3 or 4 days, the rest of the planets will be laughing at us on Earth because, well, we're going to go through it potentially. And, well, this is, it's going to be massive coronal mass ejection, right? And just look, by the way, I don't know if you can see on your screen. No, video cannot be seen, right? But it's a massive stuff there. It's a massive stuff, right? I mean, this some yellow stuff on top of their sun. It is visible. That's what these scientists are talking about. So yes, some serious stuff is happening on the sun, and let's hope it will get rid of this prominence today or tomorrow. Otherwise, well, Earth might be on the path to this massive burst of energy, right, from the sun, and it might not end well, by the way, because whenever there is a coronal mass ejections, if sun is going through it, if a planet is going through it, then of course quite often satellites are experiencing difficulties, navigation, communication, everything, right? And if this coronal mass ejection is big enough, it can actually kill the grid in all over the planet. We have not experienced such a massive wave of charged particles for a century, I believe, right? There were some big ones, but for a century there was nothing like that. But last time big stuff happened was when radio was just invented, isn't it? And there was if I remember correctly, this story, there was a cable even, right? Laid down between US and Europe, and that cable shut down as a result of coronal mass ejection, something like that. So it's a stuff to be wary of. Nothing to be said about humans that are sensitive to the weather changes, right? Whenever there is a magnetic storm, I, for example, experiencing high blood pressure. Okay. That's it for a new segment, dear friends. Hopefully you liked it. So let's pay attention to what is going on the sun too. We are forgetting, isn't it, how fragile our planet is and how fragile life is on this planet. When you're taking into consideration all the forces that are there, in a space, including our sun. And okay, this is it for new segment. Hopefully you did find it informative and useful, dear friends. And if so, please like the video and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm. And now I will highlight super chat from Rumble. There was one super chat at this point on Rumble, and this super chat is from D Modos Qatar. Thank you very much, Diana, for $5 donation, and your super chat comment is thanks for your honest reporting. Thank you very much, Diana, for your support and attention. Thank you. And also there was Daniela, yes, Daniela. My apologies. My apologies. Ah, there was a really. I have not seen there. There was a super chat also, dear friends. A subscription from Viper. Let me highlight, dear friends. Also, Viper, member of our community, gifted a subscription on Rumble. So let me highlight this too. So thank you very much, Viper, for super chat subscription. Sorry, for a premium subscription on Rumble. Thank you very much. And this is a $5 donation, basically. That's what Viper did. So thank you very much, Viper. Thank you. And there was also on PayPal, right? Anya is helping me as always. Mr. S. Mr. S. Mr. SM. Thank you very much for your 20 euro donation or 20 pound donation. Sorry. Thank you for your 20 pound donation. Comment is excellent journalism from Mr. SM. Thank you very much. Thank you. And there was also a donation from Natalia. Thank you very much, Natalia, for $10 donation. And this is a Bald Eagle, a member of our community, Bald Eagle. So thank you very much, Natalia and the Bald Eagle, for the $10 donation through PayPal. And comment from Natalia and Bald Eagle is their entire world is in a state of political craziness. Change is about to happen. And I agree with you. Whenever I think about current developments, I also think that it seems like we have reached a certain point when things cannot continue as usual. Something big has to happen because world is clearly how should I say it? Мир висит на волоске. World is hanging over the abyss. So this cannot continue. We need the de-escalation. We need I will say new Yalta. That's what we need. We need new Yalta when major, most powerful countries will get together and come up with certain agreements that will allow this world to stay in peace, at least to avoid world war, right? And I guess this new Yalta will basically finalize divide of this world in a western part and the rest of the world, and probably our world gonna be divided this way, like western world and the rest of the world, for decades to come. And hopefully sometime in the future, towards the end of maybe this century, humanity will grow enough or developed enough to actually get together again or something like that. But things cannot continue as they stand right now, because we're clearly heading towards the like massive escalation, maybe towards the world war. After all, and this is not me saying it, by the way. After all, doomsday clock that is based on analytics of numerous number of top scientists in this world, doomsday clock has never been closer to midnight than it is right now. Not even during the Caribbean crisis, or in 70s or 80s, by the way, when there was some emergencies too. So, okay, that's been said, dear friends. I'm going to join our community, and I will take time to to react to as many comments as I can. And meanwhile, I will highlight whenever there is a donation or super chat, or you can, if anyone subscribes to my Patreon, I will highlight that too. I will just remind you that if you want to participate in this fundraising and donate, you can do it through PayPal, Boosty platforms. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. You can become a member of our Patreon community. Link is also under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Or if you don't like Patreon, you can subscribe to my Boosty page. I'm publishing same extra content on both my channels. There is also super chat on Rumble, and their premium subscription on Rumble, and the crypto bot. Crypto actually works. Goodness me, man. I was absolutely sure that my crypto wallet is not working, but turned out to be, my understanding to be wrong, because as I said, there was donation through crypto in LTC. So I see Nikos is commenting, dear friends, and for now we have already raised $40, 45. Yes, task. Usually, I will say it for potential new members. Task of this fundraising is usually to reach $200. We already reached 45. And there was a Sally in the morning, right? Sally donated new member of Patreon, Sally. So thank you very much, Sally, for joining our community on Patreon this morning. I see, by the way, question from Nikos, and let's start our conversation. I think Nikos is commenting here, dear friends. I think we know why Levon will be furious today. Putin saying Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. When all this intrigue stated, I thought it was Gilbert Doctorow's nonsense, but this is better. Nikos continues, I respect President Putin, and I think most Russians still do. But his policy on trusting Trump, which he is doubling down on, is flawed, and it has done irreparable damage, and he does not see that. And Nikos continues, we can debate whether Russia was ready for a quick or slow operation, but this policy is on him, and I understand your frustration, Levon. I hope he either changes, or at least there is no instability. And well, I mean, so much to unpack here, isn't it? And thank you for sharing your opinion, Nikos. And well, how can I react? There's going to be no instability here in Russia, Nikos. I'm 100% convinced on that. I have lived through 90s, by the way, and I know indicators of instability when I see it, right? Because yet again, I went through 90s, and I have seen not just instabilities, I have seen civil war, right? In Georgia, for example, when central parts of Tbilisi, by the way, that look nice today, was burned down, right? As a result of civil war. And it was not just in Tbilisi, by the way. Georgia suffered a great deal after collapse of Soviet Union because of these irresponsible so-called politicians and stuff. So I can, I know indicators of instability when I see them, and there is none right now here in Russia. There is none. So this is all false narratives that being pushed from the West, that there's going to be some instability in Russia, and some like palace revolution or something like that, and Putin going to be like removed or something. No one going to remove Putin except Putin himself. He is a legit president, by the way. He has a support of majority of public, right? Vast majority of public, actually. And that's it, man. We might sometimes agree with his decisions, sometimes disagree, but he is a president, not me or anyone else, right? So therefore, we have to go along with the decisions that Russian president, Russian government thinks is accurate and needed for a country. And we should always keep in mind, I mean, no matter how frustrated we are, and I'm, by the way, quite often frustrated, right? Especially with this attitude towards Trump and their administration in US. I mean, they are not our friends, by the way, never were, never will be, right? But no matter my frustration, no matter frustration of anybody else, we don't really have a choice, by the way, we as a community here in Russia, but to stay together and stay strong, right? Stay united. We are engaged in a war. We all understand that. Vast majority of us understands that we are engaged in a war against whole of freaking NATO, right? All NATO is fighting us. And, we have to stay strong, and we have to stay united. That's it. And no one will dare, by the way, trust me, no one will dare, either in Putin's inner circle or anywhere else, to even try to do some coup d'etat stuff here, man. No, they're gonna fail miserably and very quickly. If some crazies will even attempt that, right? It's not happening, man. I have seen statements of this person that you mentioned. What is his name? Gilbert Doctorow. I mean, I watched the episode of Judge Napolitano's show when he was actually saying that, yes, there is a possibility of some internal palace revolution or something. But he is mistaken. I don't know if his takes are coming from. And he should come here in Russia, talk to people, ordinary people, first, right? Because without public support, it's tremendously difficult to do any coup d'etat anywhere, right? You need at least some public support, right? And in other hand, when it comes to elites, by the way, political elites, yet again, I mean, I don't think there is anybody that stupid in Putin's inner circle or in the leadership of Russia to even think about coup d'etat. No, man, it's insane. It's insane, absolutely. So, no worries about that. I mean, honestly, but I have no freaking worries about some internal instability or like coup d'etats. It's this topic is not relevant. We don't talk about this, we don't consider this, we don't fear this kind of development because this is not a topic here in Russia whatsoever, right? But time to time, when government makes some decisions or make some statements that we ordinary people may find strange, I mean, we can express our opinions. It's all good, right? So no worries, man. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. Trust me. No one will dare to mess with the stability here in Russia internally. Security services are doing their job, by the way. Trust me. And they are working without freaking breaks. They work literally without breaks, man. They're not going to allow anyone to jeopardize safety and the security of the country, man. That's how it is. And yet again, Putin will leave position of president when he will decide to leave. I mean, he's just been elected like last year, isn't it? There was elections. So he's going to stay in power for another like 4 years, right? Then gonna be another elections. If he still wants to be president, then most likely he will win, because his rating is just too freaking high, man. Right? His rating is just too high. Some people might criticize certain decisions of his, certain takes, but that does not mean that people will not support him, right? We can criticize each other, but it does not mean that we are not supporting each other. Uh, you know, there is a mistaken interpretation in the West of internal relationships that is taking place here in Russia. So, no risks of instability. Everything is going to be good. And I'm scrolling now, dear friends. So if I see capital Qs, I forgot to say about it in the beginning, dear friends. If you have a question to me that you want to be highlighted, or the commentary, you can not just send it through PayPal or Boosty, but also super chat, of course, on Rumble, and even without that, just use capital letters in Rumble chat, in YouTube chat, capital letters, capital Q, so that I will know that this question is for me. Unfortunately, I cannot see. Oh, I can. By the way, I can see questions or comments. I can see chat here too on Rumble. And so where I was here. So let's continue scrolling. I see a question from a naturally aspirated Russian ally. Has Novorossiysk surfaced in the Mediterranean with their gas leaker? And if so, that is being done about it? What is being done about it? I have heard about some rumors about Russian diesel electric submarine that allegedly surfaced somewhere in the Mediterranean and experienced some technical difficulties. But this is all speculations and rumors. I did not see no report, by the way, at least on media, big media channels here in Russia, either confirming this or denying. I did not see nothing about it, right, in the media field. So therefore, I cannot tell you was it true or not. I just don't know. There are just some speculations on internet, and that's about it, right? But this is, in any ways, if it's a Mediterranean, by the way, it has to be diesel electric submarine, so-called black holes, by the way. That's a Western designation of these submarines. Right? They are very, very quiet submarines. But this is not a strategical weapon system, and although very capable one, it carries caliber cruise missiles, by the way. But yet again, there is no factual information on the matter, and understandably so. By the way, if anything even actually happened to submarine, this is not a nuclear submarine. This is diesel electric submarine that we are talking about. But if there was some emergency, then because it's submarines, by the way, information most likely will be classified, and we will not get the full picture. But yet again, I don't see any reports, even in Telegram channels, by the way, in the Russian segment, about anything happening to submarine. So I don't know. I'm not going to speculate because I just have no trusted source. Every time I see this kind of report, source is a Western one, and therefore I take it with a great deal of skepticism. Nikos is also commenting, who would have thought that the person who would cause political problems to Putin would be in Trump, and not just to him, but to Modi and Xi as well. And they do nothing. China yesterday reacted. I mean, yet again, political problems, not really. I don't know, man. I don't think Trump is a political problem for a Russian president. Trump, unfortunately, is a president of US, and US is a military problem for Russia, right? Because US directly engaged in this proxy war against us. But when it comes to political problems, Putin has no political problems. We should understand this. His rating, by the way, is above 70%, right? And no one, even in the West, by the way, doubts this data. Putin is extremely popular among Russians, right? And just because some of his takes are misunderstood or not understood by some groups in the public, this does not mean that very same public will not support him or will go against him. No, man. Take any family, by the way, ordinary family. And country is, of course, family, right? Every now and then, some members in the family are going to have an opinion that the rest will get frustrated. Like, what we are talking about? Why you think that way, or this or that? But it does not mean that this family is going to go fight each other now, right? No, it's just, okay, you have some opinion. We don't understand it, but okay, let's just get on with it. That's how public will react whenever there is certain decisions or statements that some groups in the public will not understand. So Putin has no political problems, by the way. I mean, whatsoever. There is no issue of instability here in Russia or anything like that. It's not a topic of discussion. Every time I hear about it, these questions are, and these topics are coming from the West, not from within, right? So that is itself quite telling. Am I correct? And when it comes to Modi and Xi Jinping, I don't think Trump created any problem for them too either. China is taking retaliatory steps that is very serious. I mean, if you think about, China is standing up to US big time, and it's US that will back down eventually, as it already did, right? And when it comes to India, by the way, India also demonstrated that it can stand up to these hegemons, right? Former hegemons, let's say, Western countries, including US. And Modi, if anything, Modi's popularity has increased in India because people like that, right? People like that. If he caved in to Trump's demands and cut the relationships with Russia, people will be very much upset, because what the hell? Not just because decision to, let's say, cut relationships with Russia or minimize, but because New Delhi would cave in, right? People would not like that. So if anything, Modi is more popular now because he stand up to former hegemon than otherwise. So, if anything, if Trump is a problem for anybody, it's first of all for Europe. First of all, for Europe, by the way, because Trump is messing around Europe big time, right? Accelerating the industrialization of European economies. And secondly, Trump is an issue, and his administration issue for US itself, because it's almost civil war, by the way, inside the country, right? Military is even being deployed. So, and nothing to be said about economical developments, right? And don't look just on stock markets. Stock markets are bubble, right? These are not real indicators of the economy. Real indicators are very different. And according to reports that I see, man, there is a quite high inflation in the US, right? Living standards are failing. And not just now or last year or year before. This is a trajectory of the US for last 30, 40 years. And Trump's administration is not helping to actually deal with the real economical challenges that people are facing, right? And his policy is actually harming locals, right? Local farmers, local manufacturers, Trump is an issue for US, by the way. This trade war and tariff wars are becoming a really serious issue for US. So that's my take. If Trump is a problem and his administration is a problem for anybody, first of all, for Europe and for US itself. There was a boosty. Dear friends. Right now, let me highlight, if I may. Let me highlight. There was a donation through Boosty. So thank you very much, Malina, for your 400 ruble donation, 389, which is $5, right? Thank you very much, Malina. I appreciate your support and attention. There is no comment to highlight, but there is donation. Thank you. And we have reached 50. Okay, out of 200, which is a task for today's fundraising stream. We have reached 50 already. So yes, that's how it is, Nikos. Anne, if you see, I'm monitoring now. You see, I have seen question here from Scooby on Rumble. How many lost decades do you think Europe has to endure now? Sadder. This is comment from Scooby on Rumble. Can you make a screenshot, Anya? Well, I will answer, but I just want to do it through this technical issue with their connecting Rumble to StreamYard. I cannot pull on a screen questions from Rumble, but I did read a question from Scooby, and well, I think Europe is doomed for becoming loosely relevant or completely irrelevant part of the Eurasian continent in next 20, 30 years. And there is no ways for Europe to avoid this. Europe is doomed, man, big time. And there is not even theoretical chances that this will be avoidable. It is what it is. US can actually maintain its somewhat relevant position on a geopolitical scale because it does has resources, right, to do so. But Europe does not have resources. And the only chance Europe had was to cooperate with Russia, and European elites choose other way. They chose confrontation. They chose hostility towards Russia. I guess their plan was to destroy Russia, divide Russia, and then just grab these resources that Russia has, right, and use it for their own development. But they failed, you see. They failed. They launched this proxy war against us, and they are losing it. no matter how long they be able to prolong this proxy war, eventually they will have no option but to capitulate. Absolutely. And also, dear friends, there is donation right now from Patrick on PayPal, and there $25 donation. And thank you very much, Patrick, for your support. And there is comment also: is there number on how many U.S. servicemen and U.S. Mercenaries have been killed there? I don't know. I cannot tell you about U.S. Intelligence or military personnel that was killed during their special military operation. But when it comes to U.S. citizens, relatively recently, I read an article according to which more than 200 U.S. citizens have been killed that were disguised as mercenaries on Q-controlled territory. And yet again, this is our all speculations. Obviously, there are cases when people just disappearing. Can you imagine what will be left from a unit that endorse FAB 500 strike? There is nothing will be left from that unit, literally nothing, right? That group has disappeared. And no one can tell you if there are no survivors, no one would know what happened, right? So reports are that more than 200 citizens of US have been killed disguised as mercenaries. The real number could be much higher. But it's just I don't think it is even technically possible to know actual numbers. And when it comes to U.S. military and their intelligence representatives, of course, that information will be classified. And maybe sometime in 20, 30 years after this information will be declassified, we will learn how many acting military and intelligence personnel was killed in this action. I think number is in hundreds too, for sure. I remember there was reports, for example, some time ago about Russian initial strikes in Western Ukraine on one of their underground bunkers, and reports were that number of generals, NATO generals, including US generals, were literally buried in that bunker. It was completely obliterated. So, but this is this is all reports that we are receiving from different sites. I don't think there is actual number or relative information in open sources about it, because how anyone can know? Maybe US, maybe Pentagon and CIA know. They should know how many people they lost, right? They would not know how many American citizens get killed, because I don't think they are tracking everybody who visits Q-controlled territory, right? I don't think even Russian militaries know how many Americans have been killed, but speculations are that more than 200 mercenaries have been killed. How many acting militaries? It's impossible to know. And when it comes to this, I believe I reported about this article. I can't remember in which media outlet. It was Western media outlet, if I remember correctly, that was reporting about more than 200 American citizens being killed in hostilities. A question from Evgenius BC Mumba. Where are the previously donated F-16s by NATO war-mongering Sweden, Netherlands, and others? Well, F-16s were transferred by Netherlands, right? Sweden, I don't think if Sweden transferred any F-16s. Sweden might transfer, according to some reports, sub jets, right? Gripens, maybe. But Netherlands did transfer, according to reports, F-16s, and Denmark will do the same now. And well, several of them. It was a relatively small number, isn't it, of F-16s that was at least publicly stated that being transferred to Kyiv regime, and I don't know, 3 of them get crushed, right? That's what Kyiv regime says always, that plane get crushed. They never admitted that plane was intercepted by Russian militaries. So, if I remember correctly, there was reports about at least 3 F-16s being lost by Kyiv regime. Maybe more actually. And there was also a report about one Mirage 2000 being neutralized too. When it comes to Mirages, reports are that France transferred 5 to 6 Mirage 2000 planes, and when it comes to F-16s, it's about a dozen planes that were transferred, and at least 3 of them were destroyed, or potentially more. But these planes, mostly these F-16s are, and also Mirages, by the way, are used as interceptors to intercept Russian drones and missiles. Although time to time they are trying to use them as ground attack planes too, with the glide bombs. And whenever this happens, usually Kyiv regime is losing those planes. I'm scrolling, dear friends, now. Tom Fletcher is commenting, Putin is doing a great job. He is building a coalition while the West is destroying itself. Be proud of your leader. Trump sucks. Trump sucks, 100%. I agree with you. And when it comes to Putin, by the way, yet again, we might be frustrated with some of his policies, but yet again, it does not mean that he is no longer popular in the public or anything. He is the most popular politician, period. I mean, no one is even close, man. Last time I see some social studies on that matter, he had like 70 plus, 70 something rating, trust rating, right? So it's a big number, by the way. And that's why I am saying that these topics that Nikos, for example, was highlighting is not even in a conversation here in Russia. We don't talk about this stuff, right? It's a Western channels, Western public figures that are talking about this unrest in Russia, some palace revolution or something, that kind of stuff. We don't talk about this because this is not relevant topics. I mean, it is what it is. Just because some people may be frustrated with something does not mean that those people are going to go against the leadership, especially in the war times, by the way. Come on now. All we have to do, by the way, number one, what we have to do, citizens of Russian Federation, is be strong and be together, be united. That's it, right? After war, we can discuss all sorts of policies and this and that, and deal with all that stuff. But during the war, first what we have to do is be united and strong, right? That's how it is. Sometimes we might be frustrated, sometimes we might not, but to be united and strong comes first always. Also, Nikos is commenting. Moldova is a joke. Transnistria and Gagauzia are the bulk of their military trained people of that country. Transnistria is armed to the teeth. They have no chance against them. I mean, Moldova is destined, as I said, Nikos, I agree with you. Moldova is a joke, and it's a creation of a Stalin, by the way, right? Moldova didn't really exist in such a form, right? It's a creation of Bolsheviks, another one, like Ukraine is and was a creation of the Bolsheviks, right? That never existed ever in any form, right? As a state, quasi-state, or anything, never existed. It's a pure creation of Bolsheviks, right? I don't understand why Ukrainian Nazis hate Bolsheviks, by the way. They should be proud, right, of Bolshevik, because and they should pray on Lenin day in, day out, because Lenin gave them this this quasi-statehood that the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic actually had in the Soviet Union, right? But because Lenin is affiliated with Russia mainly, Ukrainian Nazis hate him too, and all the other Bolsheviks, I guess, right? But themselves are becoming now modern, sort of like Bolsheviks, as it is the case in regards to whole Western world, by the way, right? That's how I see this confrontation, by the way. If 100 years ago, uh, if 100 years ago, during the civil war inside the Russian world, by the way, Western countries were fighting on behalf of Mensheviks at the time, right? Or White Army, as their forces were called. And Menshevik and Bolsheviks, dear friends, it's words. Bolshe is more, and Menshe is less, right? And Bolsheviks are like groups that are like more of them, and Mensheviks are groups that are just less. In numbers, you can interpret as being more and less in numbers, or in support, let's say. Different interpretations, but that's what words means themselves. Bolshe is more, Menshe is less. And so if 100 years ago, during the Civil War, Western countries, US, UK, France, even Czech Republic, by the way, send their troops to fight Bolsheviks, and to fight inside in this civil war inside the Russian world on behalf of Bolsheviks, because they were using them to destroy Russia. Now they are supporting Bolsheviks. Now very same countries are fighting on behalf of Bolsheviks, that these Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists are basically acting like on a Kiev-controlled territory, right? And take a look at the EU, by the way. Take a look at the Brussels, how they are acting. You know, there is in my personal opinion, clearly can be seen resemblance with their Bolshevik attitude, right? That they know, no one else knows nothing, right? Only they know. And they're, you know, but when it comes to, yes, Moldova, I went in other direction. When it comes to Moldova, by the way, this republic is destined to disintegration. Transnistria, Gagauzia, and some other parts of the Moldova, where people see themselves to be part of Russian world, definitely not as Romanians, at least. Those parts will either go fully independent or will join Russian Federation. That's how it's going to be. And the rest of the territory will eventually join Romania, because people there think that they are Romanians. They want to be part of Romania, so let them be part of Romania, man. I see no issue with that, right? People that see themselves as a part of Russian world should be in Russian world, and people that see themselves as a part of Romania should be part of Romania. I mean, and that's why I think Moldova is destined to full-scale disintegration. It's just inevitable, man. Absolutely inevitable. This is an artificial creation of Bolsheviks, and that said everything, I think. And I see super chat, dear friends, right now on Rumble from Viper. Let me highlight, dear friends. Let me highlight the question from Viper. Interesting question, by the way. I did not expect this question. So Viper, thank you very much for your super chat on Rumble and the question, $5 donation also, and the question. And Viper is asking: Is Putin part of Freemasons? I seen him in a picture of a level 33 gear. Wow, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Putin has anything to do with the Freemasons, by the way. I don't think he was part of this secret society. Um, and I definitely don't think he is a 33 degree, and that is topest, highest level, isn't it, in Freemasonry, that you can get 33 gear. So I think you might see some AI generated picture, Viper, because I have not seen anything in regards to that. Had Putin met with some Masons? Yes, sure. Of course, it's nothing extra. I have met with Masons, by the way. I'm quite sure about it, right? I have even knew human that was dreaming about becoming a Mason, and he actually get invitation, right? In Masons, there is a certain process. You have to be invited by two or recommended by two people already Masons or something like that. There is certain processes there, and so 15 years ago, man, I was I knew the person, a writer, by the way, not a politician or anything. He was a writer and had some. He was writing okay, actually. I have read some of his stuff, and then he tried to become politician. By the way, I don't know what happened to him after that. But yes, that person was, for example, dreaming about like joining this organization. I was telling him why, for God's sake, why, right? But yet again, people are different, isn't it? So it is nothing extraordinary to have a conversation with either candidates of Freemasons, or the member of the Freemasons. You might have spoke to Masons without even knowing it, right? But when it comes to Putin himself, I don't think he's a member of the Freemasons. I think he is much more powerful than Masons ever will be, right? Freemasons. We should keep in mind, by the way, that this Freemasonry is just the one tool, right? That influential forces have. First of all, influential forces from the West, right? So it's just one tool. There is a Club of Rome, right? Also a very influential group, for example. No, maybe even more influential than Freemasons in certain ways. In US, there is a couple of organizations also influential secret societies, so-called. And by the way, among those secret societies, I don't think Freemasons are more powerful than others. They are in numbers. They have plus in numbers. There are a lot of Masons, right? But anyways, I think you have seen some AI generated image, Viper. I doubt Putin is a Freemason. Why would he? And I don't know. What is the point to be Freemason, really? It's if you agree to be Freemason, you are agreeing to be tool in hands of others, right? So I don't think Putin would agree on that. So that's my understanding of the situation. Thank you very much, Viper, for your donation and the super chat on Rumble. And but question is interesting. I never thought about that stuff, but it's interesting. Oh, interesting comment I see. Dear friends, Levan, I wrote a full report on the collapse of France, triggered by Ibrahim Traore, supported directly by Russia, kicked out of the French, ending 79 years of French colonialism in Burkina Faso. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Wetty Lanner reports this information. Interesting comment there. Well, France basically has lost Africa, former colonies, almost completely. And if Russia did play a role in that, great. And of course, Russia did, by the way, and continues to do so. And this is great. This is great. And when it comes to Burkina Faso, Russian militaries, Russian experts are helping Burkina Faso nowadays too. And the leader of Burkina Faso, this younger captain, right, was here in Russia just recently, I believe, on celebration of 9th of May. Great victory day celebration. So yes, Russia is helping, by the way, nations in not just in West Africa, but in Africa in general. And this is one might say tradition, because all these independent movements in African nations, by the way, was supported by Soviet Union, right? And this process continues to nowadays. I have seen, I see now, dear friends, some comments that I have to delete this comment, by the way. I will not take any measures right now against the author of the comment, but please, dear friends, don't allow yourself to write anything against entire groups of people. It's not okay, right? There is a good and bad everywhere, right? So let's be very clear on that. No xenophobic or something of not that nature can be allowed in the chat, by the way. So and in the life, by the way, this is not good. We cannot generalize, right? And just because there are some bad people in certain field, it does not mean that everybody in that field is negative personality. So we should not ever generalize, because that's always mistake. It's always mistake. It's never correct. So hopefully that person get the message. I delayed the comment itself, but if I see anything like that again, I will have to block that person, because no xenophobic or some crazy stuff here, by the way. No, just respect her, and exchange of opinions on any topic with respect. And dear friends, if I miss some outrageous comment of someone, just let me know. Write me on a mail, and I will take action. And if there is any question on yes, dear friends, capital Qs. Use capital Qs, please, on Rumble and YouTube. Today, unfortunately, I cannot pull out comments from Rumble, but if there is a question, Anya will make it a screenshot of it and send me. So I will highlight anyways. Capital letters will make it easier to spot. If this is a question that I have to highlight. There is quite a discussion, isn't it, in the chat? By the way, I love to see this when chat is very active and members are communicating. Spider OK is asking, do you know anything about the nuclear power missiles? You mean nuclear powered missiles? There is a Avangard, for example, Russian missile system that is powered by nuclear device. This is unique weapon system. I don't think there is anything like that in the world. And the Russian Avangard is also, I believe, in a testing phase. It's not yet been adopted by Russian militaries, but there are reports that Russian military industrial complex is actively working on the development of this missile system that will have unlimited range whatsoever. It's as far as I can tell, it has nuclear power and also traditional engine, or I don't know. I'm not an expert in military stuff, but its name is Avangard. That's how it's called, Avangard, and allegedly, right before Russian president visited Alaska, Anchorage, tests should take place of that missile system. I did not see no reports, sir. Did this test take place, sir? Was it successful or not? But yes, that's all I know. It's obviously classified information, and in open sources there is almost nothing about it, right? Just the name, alleged name of the weapon system, Avangard, and that's about it. And all we know is it's supposed to have a nuclear power, and that's it. And I don't think any other country is developing weapon system of that kind at this point. Maybe US does, by the way. Maybe Skunk Works or something like that in US that do invest heavily in all sorts of military stuff. Maybe they are working on the topic, but I don't know. But we do have an Avangard system that is soon probably will be adapted to the Russian strategical missile forces. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levaner, breaking news, Trump invited Indian PM to attend Egypt for Gaza peace plan. I hope we stay out of their Abrahamic squabble. Well, Trump invited India. I mean, what India has to do with the Middle Eastern crisis, man? Nothing. Maybe Trump wants to give a bigger media optic to this development, and that's why he's inviting Indian Prime Minister Modi, because Western politics quite often is media ops, isn't it? Propaganda and the media ops. That's all it is, really. And maybe for Trump, it's not enough to be to participate in an event when there is only few local leaders, right? And he wants this event to be global, and presence of Indian leader obviously will give it a whole different scale. But yet again, why? I mean, Why would Modi go, man? Maybe he will go because he don't want to escalate with US any further than it is already. Maybe he will go, but yet again, it's a clear public relations games that Washington is engaged more often, isn't it? With this all sorts of topics, because I guess no one really doubts that once Israeli hostages are released, hostility is gonna resume. So I understand your take, Nidish, absolutely. I think it will be better if India will stay out of it because it's just gonna be waste of time for Indian Prime Minister. And just why should he go, man? To give Trump better optics? It's not Indian Prime Minister's job to give Trump better optics, man. There was a I see question on Rumble, dear friends. Let me highlight this question. Question from Rumble, because I was unable to connect StreamYard with the Rumble. I will use this kind of feature. I will highlight. I will highlight question from Rumble this way. So it's a Scooby, dear friends, that are asking on Rumble. Ivan, did you see the news about the Chinese J-16s targeting their F-22 stealth fighters? Yes, I have. I did read about these crazy stories that I struggle to believe, really, that J-16s square up with their F-22s. Different reports, by the way. According to some reports, there was several F-22s, several J-16s. According to other reports, there was one F-16 and several F-22s. Whatever the case, all the reports that I have seen are alleging that this J-16 pilot was doing some crazy stuff around F-22s and like Top Gun type of stuff, by the way, right? Literally, when allegedly J-16 get on top of F-22, like you see in the first Top Gun movie, when Tom Cruise's hero on F-14 flies over there, this alleged MiG-28s that never existed, and it's F-5s, US F-5s that are imitating these non-existent MiG-28s. So yes, I have seen the reports about it, and I don't really believe in this stuff. Maybe J-16s and F-22s just fly in closer proximity from each other, but I don't believe Chinese pilot would be authorized to do some crazy maneuvers around F-22s. Until I will see video of that, I'm not going to believe in this stuff, man. So maybe Chinese pilots get very close to F-22s. Maybe. Sometimes this kind of stuff happens, and their pilots, while playing these cat and mouse games with each other, do some crazy stuff, right? During the interceptions, pilots doing some quite risky maneuvers from all sides. But reports that I read and hear about this alleged interference of J-16 and F-22s just are too crazy, man. It's like a movie scenario, and that's why I don't believe in this. And also, it is interesting to know how these J-16s end up next to F-22s. Do F-22s fly with their responders, or what is the name? Responders, isn't it? On, so that they could be spotted, noticed, or maybe there was some Chinese AWACS somewhere, and they spot F-22s and the directed J-16s. That's, to me, more interesting, how J-16s potentially end up next to F-22s, how they detect it, right? Either it was a responder zone or China has radars that can see F-22s. That technical stuff is more interesting to me than this movie stuff that J-16 get over the F-22 and do some crazy maneuvers. I don't think so. I really don't, man. It's. I guess this is Chinese propaganda of sort, and well, you can understand why would they want to spread some legendary rumors that, well, you see what happened, and that kind of stuff. But I don't think in reality anything like that had happened. Or let them show me video. Let them show us video, by the way, and then I will believe. But before that, nah. It's just too crazy to be true, in my personal opinion. Yet again, you did not share your take on the matter, but let's continue, dear friends. Our stream is 2.5 hours already, and well, we have a good conversation, isn't it? Chat is active, and from tasks from fundraising side, from 200 that was a task, we managed to raise $80, by the way. We managed to raise during this fundraising out of 200. Thank you very much to all the members of community who donated and for help, of course. Nikos is commenting, I'm back. Are we talking about China finally growing backbone and reacting to the US? Nikos, did you miss that situation in the beginning of Trump's second term when he imposed on China already more than 100% of tariffs? And then after a short time, he backed off. He removed these tariffs, and their only original tariffs, let's say before Trump's second term that was in place, were left. Trump already escalated with China, right? Big time. And then he was forced to back off. And he will be forced to back down now too, I think. China did not hesitate to respond in kind to US. And I mean, we might agree on this or disagree on the topic, but I think Chinese economy is in much stronger position than US economy. And Trump is risking absolutely unnecessary with this escalation with the China. And you think why China imposed certain restrictions on the rare earth? That was a Chinese response on Washington's decision to restrict their transfer or export of certain IT technologies or microchips and stuff to China, by the way, which is harmful for Chinese economy. And Chinese said, okay, you are trying to harm our economy while imposing these restrictions on microchip exports and stuff. Okay, we will do the same then, and we will impose restrictions on transfer of rare earth. And let's see where we go. Wow. And let's see where we go from there, right? So China was standing strong against US pressure. And that's why I'm not at all, absolutely not surprised that this time around China does the same. Nikos and Svetlana have interesting conversation. They had spoke about many topics, and I spot this comment now, Svetlana Vladimirovna. I thought most Russians eat Georgian food. Georgian food is popular, by the way, here in Russia, but I don't know most or not most, but Georgian cuisine is quite popular, and probably you will struggle to find cities in Russia where there is no Georgian restaurant or something like that. It's a tradition from Soviet Union era, by the way. So also, Nidish is commenting. One new study says that dollar flares have effects on solar flares. The one new study says that solar flares have effects on a woman's heart. I don't want to trust it. Woman's heart. Why not man's heart? I mean, weather sensitive people are reacting on magnetic storms. Whenever I feel a blood pressure, for example, high blood pressure, there was how many instances when I said most likely it is a magnetic storm, and either me or my wife is just for interest checking the media if there was any report about magnetic storms, and yes, it is always the case, practically always, by the way. You know, so I think this coronal mass ejections that is happening on the sun and these charged particles that influence magnetic field of our planet definitely has influence on the health of people, humans on planet Earth, especially on the health of weather sensitive people. And this is coming with the age, isn't it? When you are young, you are not that really sensitive to the weather changes, but with age, you more and more people are beginning to notice some correlation there. So yes, it does affect humans. I don't think it affects women any more than it does affect men. So and heart. Well, because it can influence on a blood pressure. By the way, I mean magnetic storms and blood pressure is related with the heart too. I mean you can connect there, find the connection. So yes, eventually it affects hearts too, and everything else, right? Blood pressure is extremely dangerous stuff, isn't it? You have to constantly monitor if you are dealing with pressure stuff. You have to constantly monitor it. It's dangerous stuff, man. Well, Line of Judea is commenting. Good morning, Levan and community. 8:23 a.m. Central Time, United States. You are doing a fine job from Wisconsin. Thank you very much, Line of Judea, for your nice, kind words. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. It's its day is just beginning there, isn't it? So have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you. Day is just beginning in Wisconsin, and it's already like 5:30 here in Moscow. And also, Lion of Judah is commenting. The problem is the collective West and their generational elites, both Europe and the United States. I agree with you, 100%, 100%, Lion of Judea. I think exactly that is a problem. These generational elites, generational clans, right, that are dominating for at least last 3 to 5 centuries, right? These generational so-called elites, and there are all sorts of criminal groups, clans that are affiliated with them. First of all, European aristocracies, of course, and their groups that were affiliated with them, and then lately, of course, U.S. ruling class joined this gang, basically. Sammy McPhee is commenting, look, stop saying logical things. It's not the Western way. Thank you very much for your humor. Thank you. Also, Nidish is commenting, Levant, will Moscow format call for emergency summit for a conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan? Well, I think this escalation between Afghanistan and Pakistan will die down because I don't think Pakistan is in a position to really escalate with Afghanistan for a long time, even if Washington will demand to do so. And therefore, if Russian side will be engaged in diplomatically to achieve the escalation between the two, I mean, there might be some steps taken in this regard, probably, but even without Moscow's involvement, I don't think this current escalation between Islamabad and Kabul will last for long. There is always, every now and then, they are fighting on the border, isn't it? And this time, Afghanistani Taliban basically caused this escalation on a borderline that they don't recognize, actually, because of the recent Pakistani strikes on Kabul, where allegedly, as a result of Pakistani airstrike, Pakistani Taliban leader was killed. So Afghanistan retaliated. Now they will exchange fire on the border for a day or two, and I guess that's about it. For another month or two, there will be some sort of stability on the line of contact, and then something will happen. They will start shelling each other again, and that's a forever stuff. That's forever stuff, and it's gonna be that way always, as long as these borderline regions are held by Pakistan. Those Pushtun people, by the way, there, and some other ethnic minorities, they never gonna actually recognize Islamabad to be their political leadership. Never. And the presence of these people on the other side of the border gives Kabul obviously advantage that Pakistan does not has. So what Pakistan has, it's of course military capabilities that Afghanistan lacks. But yet again, in the mountains, in mountainous regions, your air force don't really place that big of a role, isn't it? So probably Moscow will be engaged in some sort to de-escalate, to help sides or to call sides towards the escalation. But even without Moscow's involvement, they're not gonna continue this fighting for much longer. Oh, that's a big statement from Heimo Molanen, that Mr. Oreshnik may visit the city of London. Well, very big statement, and I don't think this will happen. And let's hope this will not happen, by the way. I mean, let's hope we will see some sort of de-escalation, right? And it will not come to deployment of this extreme force against any hostile groups that are engaged in this proxy war against Russia. Let's hope we will see some sort of de-escalation. But yes, theoretically speaking, I can come up with a scenario when Russian Oreshniks might visit UK, but not the city of London, because on the other side, city of London is a strategical. You're not gonna get any more strategical than city of London. Leading point when it comes to control over their financial and the banking system of the Western world, right? But nevertheless, it's a civilian infrastructure. So I don't think in any circumstances or in any scenario anybody in Russian leadership will consider targeting city. There, no. Military assets, yes. Military bases, naval bases, strategical bases, and so on, but not civilian. No matter how important that civilian infrastructure or how strategical it's going to be, it's still civilian. So I already answered to this question, Lion of Judea. How many Americans have been killed in Ukraine? Is there any information? So, as I already said, according to reports that I see relatively recently, more than 200 US citizens have been killed as mercenaries. But when it comes to official, current acting servicemen of US military or the intelligence, I don't think, except Pentagon and CIA, anybody knows really. Short comment from David King, but on spot on, right? 100% spot on. Energy is the economy. Absolutely, energy is the economy, and European economies are struggling because of the energy now. They were benefiting big time thanks to energy from Russia, and they are losing big time now because there is no more Russian energy. Instead, they are buying expensive gas and even oil from Norway and from US, by the way. And the process of the industrialization of Europe, therefore, will continue and continue. It's just not stopping. Absolutely. Wow, that's quite interesting commenter. AMC Top Moon is commenting, in 80s, I could buy food for a week with $30. Wow. Now probably you will need $300 to buy food for a whole week in US. It depends on family, of course. It depends on family. I guess I don't know exactly. I mean, our friends from US can comment on that. I think for member family, I mean, ordinary families, as four-member families, will spend in US probably around $300 to $500 on food alone. I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken on that, but members of our community from US can give us more detailed information on how much food only costs for a week. I think it's at least $300 probably, and it was $30 in '80s, man. That's the inflation, right? That's freaking inflation. And Nidish is also commenting, because of Trump's Corny got elected in Canada, of his loose mouth of invading Canada, etc. And their poor Canadians had to stick with the Liberal Party again. I mean, yeah, I see your point, Nidish. I guess you are saying that because of the Trump's aggressive rhetoric towards the Canada, people, or many people, I guess, in Canada were kind of afraid or scared, and they voted for liberals again. But I think this Corny guy is at least looks like more adequate than previous one, Trudeau. I mean, this one at least looks like adequate. The Trudeau guy was clearly insane, man. Right? So, and this one, according to for what I have seen, this one is more practical, sort of. So maybe it will be better for Canadian people. Leadership of this prime minister, maybe, but Canada in general is in a big trouble. By the way, I mean, living cost of living in Canada is skyrocketing, or housing is skyrocketing, everything. By the way, while actual wages are not really increasing, inflation eats whatever increase you have, right, and even more. So therefore, decline is there, man. Decline is continuous, and like some 20, 30 years ago, Canada was among the countries, for sure. To me personally, for sure, Canada was among top three countries for a living. And now I would not mention Canada even in top 10, man. I would not mention Canada at all. I don't think Canada is a good place for a living now. I don't think US is a good place for a living, for family, by the way. If you are a traditionalist person, if you embrace normality, then I don't think either US or Canada or any Western country actually is a good place for a living. I mean, Hungary tries at least to maintain normality, right? Hungary, Serbia, even Poland, right? They are somewhat conservatives and embrace normality, I think. So maybe there are some exceptions, but in general, I mean, Western countries definitely are not for people that embrace normality, in my personal opinion. Traditional values, normality, and their adequacy, because it's crazy what happened in there. And I guess that's why there is so many demonstrations and rallies all over the Europe. More and more people are waking up and realizing that while they were sleeping, they lost the country. They lost the society. They cannot recognize anything anymore, right? And some are choosing to do something about it, to organize into some groups and try to deal with these crazy elites. Others maybe not inclined to fight there. Maybe they think fight is lost and they are moving elsewhere. They're considering to move elsewhere. And more will come to Russia. More and more of those people from their Western countries, I think. And if you ask me, by the way, Russia is definitely in top three, 100%, by the way, 100%, top three countries for a living, for a family with that embraces normality, Definitely. If you ask me, it's number one country, right? But I guess vast majority of our community will say that Russia is in at least top three. So. Well, that's a big question. When EU crumbles, will Europe go to war with each other again? Yes, I'm 100% convinced in that. Yes, and I expect a big war, first big war in Europe to happen between Poland and Germany, and their subsequent allies, by the way. But bigger, first big war in Europe among European countries will be Germany versus Poland. I think so. There can be some civil wars in number of countries, right? But that's a civil war in which some neighboring countries might play some role, but it's still first will be civil war. But when it comes to actual war between the European countries, direct fight, it's Germany and Poland. I have no doubts about it, man. Germany and Poland. It's gonna be big war, man. And both countries are getting up to it. Elites of both countries know this is coming, and both countries are gearing up for this war. That's what Europe always does, by the way. Either they are getting united under whatever pretext and they're going east to fight Russia. And if you are not going to east, towards no eastwards to fight Russia, then they are fighting each other. That's whole history of Europe, man. Right? Literally, whole history, man. They just look at it. Whenever Europe is getting united, they are always trying, I mean, to come to eastwards because there is a resources there, right? And they are always losing, by the way, this fight against Russia. And then they are fighting each other too. I don't think anything has changed, by the way. All this rhetoric from Brussels that European Union and European values and European, oh, this is all BS, isn't it? European countries hate each other, by the way, literally hate each other. In most of the cases, European countries hate their neighbors. And Poles, by the way, don't like anybody in their neighborhood, right? Poles hate Germans more than they hate Russians, by the way. Can you imagine that? But that's how it is. Or some might say, well, they hate Russians and Germans in the same way. But Poles don't really like anyone else too. They don't like Baltics people. They don't like no one. Maybe they like Anglo-Saxons, by the way. They do. I think if you conduct a survey in Poland, you will find out that Polish people only have sympathies towards Anglo-Saxons, man, and they hate everyone else. Germans, I don't think I have to even go in that category, by the way. Germans already proved that they can not just hate everybody, but they can fight everybody. So, Italians, by the way, same stuff. French people hate each other. Even different parts of France still hate each other because they are descendants of different groups, right? So France is not really as united as some might think. And when it comes to UK, it's also like, now the people may don't really hate each other. I have lived in UK, by the way, and I don't see hate between English, Scottish, and Welsh people. And I have seen all of them, right? I have talked to all of them, and I don't really think they actually hate each other. Irish is a bit different. They still have this anger, right? But Scots, English, and Welsh, they are getting quite well with each other. I mean, people from UK can correct me if I'm wrong, but they are actually doing good. Despite past all sorts of wars and stuff like that, they are getting along quite well. But now British society is divided between locals and migrants. That's the reason why UK may end up in a civil war also. So Europe is very, very, very different, and there are all these talks that European values and Western values, and this is all nonsense, by the way, right? If Europe is not united against one enemy, and usually this enemy is Russia, by the way, right? Then Europe is is fighting each other. Europeans fighting each other. Now they are kind of united against Russia, right? Kind of, but I don't think that many European countries will dare to go for open war against Russia, right? Because they know consequences will come. Some elites in some European countries might actually go ahead with next phase of escalation because they think this is their last chance, this is their last hope, right? And once they've been dealt with, when Russia will deal with them, after that, one should expect a full-scale disintegration of this European so-called unity, because there is no unity there, man. Look how they treat Hungary. Look how they treat Hungary, by the way, or how they treat even Poland. Obama, one of their public figures, leading public figures of the globalists, is openly saying, like 2 days ago or something, that his foundation will help her to bring democracy into Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia or something. What the hell, man? This is your allies you are talking about, formally at least, right? So you see, you know. Oh, there is continuation of this story. AMC Todd Moon is commenting that Chinese J-16 fighters looked into US F-35s in China Sea. I have seen reports about F-22s actually, and their J-16s. Now you are saying it was F-35s. I mean, anything is possible, but until I will see video proof of all these crazy manners that allegedly Chinese J-16 did, I would struggle to believe in it, because what have I read on internet and what I have listened is just too much of a movie scenario than some real stuff. Oh, interesting. Nikos is commenting, interestingly, the one on February 12, 2029, Vladimir Putin will officially surpass Joseph Stalin as the longest serving leader of Russia. I think he wants that record. 2029, it's in like 4 years from now. Oh, maybe. I did not count it. I never even think about this kind of stuff. So thank you for pointing our attention to this matter. Oh, it's interesting, man. In 4 years' time, yet again, after this presidential turn, if he will decide to stay in power, I guess he will win. By then, this Russia will formalize victory over the globalists and neocons and so on. So his rating gonna be even higher than it is right now. And the next elections exactly are in 2029, isn't it? I'm gonna Google it now. I don't know. There was last year, isn't it? Elections. It's in the 2029 next elections, presidential. I will Google it. In 2030. Okay, next elections are in 2030. So, yes, in any case, yeah, Putin will break that record of Stalin. Okay. I really don't think Putin cares about it. I mean, really, I mean, why would he care about that kind of stuff, man? But yes, it's an interesting notice from you, Nikos. Thank you. I never think about it, man. That Putin might surpass Stalin as the longest serving leader in Russia. But yet again, modern Russia is not Soviet Union. Stalin was not a leader of Russia only; he was leader of Soviet Union, right? So there is that difference, but nevertheless, he was leader of Russia too. So. Kate Stone is commenting in the US, we are by far the most propagandized and led to population on their planet, folks. The economies are tanking and their inflation is out of control and their politicians are pretty much criminals. Thank you very much for sharing, Kate. And it is unfortunate to hear that there are high inflation and their economy is tanking because this hurts first of all people like us, ordinary people, right? And we should consider each other to be only allies we have, ordinary people. Really, we should never ever consider each other enemies. So whenever I hear some stuff that hurts people like me, it's always sad. But thank you for sharing, Kate. And system is built that way, isn't it? System is built that way that only corrupt, only compromised individuals are allowed in. Decent human beings cannot be a part of that system. That's it. And the results, are quite telling. And was there any question on Rumble? Mickey is commenting on Rumble right now, dear friends, that I think Europe can unite against its own elites. That's a comment from Mickey, and that will be great, actually, if people of Europe will wake up and fight back, right, and try at least to reclaim their own countries and say in their own destiny, right? That will be great. And in some European countries, there is a process that we are observing when more and more people are waking up. But there is a danger too, by the way. I mean, from this wave of woken people cannot cross some lines, right? Because there is very easy to go beyond certain lines when you are on some extreme positions then, right? And your actions may actually be more harmful. So there is this silver line which cannot be crossed, isn't it? And there is always that kind of risk that when there is a public populist movement, this movement can be used by certain forces, right, to move it in a certain direction. And people have to be careful. People have to be careful not to cross that line and not to become a force in hands of some sort of extremist groups. And those kind of extremists are on both sides of aisle, by the way. Left, ultra right, ultra radical left, ultra radical right. They are more of the same, by the way. These ultra radical elements are crazies, man. Everywhere, right? Not just in Europe, but literally everywhere, man. There is nothing good in being ultra radical, man. It's Nidish is asking, Levan, will Saudi Arabia join Pakistan to fight Afghanistan as they both signed the defense pact? It will be interesting for us to see how Saudi responds. Saudi not going to do nothing. Nidish, no. As I said, this escalation is just a Taliban response for basically domestic political points, right? Kabul was attacked by Pakistani Air Force, and now Talibani government had to do something about it. They stated that they use Air Force 2 to strike on Lahore or something, right? But they definitely use power, military power on the borderline, right? And different reports are coming in. According to some, 5 Pakistani military was killed. According to others, more than 20 Pakistani military were killed as a result of this fire from Afghani forces. But this is just a temporary escalation. I don't think it's going to be actual war between the two. No, I don't think there will be actual war. So therefore, Saudi Arabia will do nothing. Maybe Riyadh will make some statements calling both sides to de-escalate or something like that. But and that's about it, man. No one in the region wants this war, right? Maybe US wants, but there are some other influential forces too that will use their influence to avoid their actual war between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But borderline skirmishes, you know, they might continue for some time. And there is always that kind of skirmishes, isn't it? I mean, every now and then, every 2-3 months, they are fighting each other on the border. First of all, because Afghanistan does not recognize the existence of the border there, right? Wow, that's quite tragic. Kate Stone is commenting in Seattle alone, there are 27,000 homeless people. Wow. And where these homeless people live, though, on the streets, they should be shelters, there should be social housing. I don't know. There should be some programs, by the way, to make sure that people would not come homeless in the first place. It's a difficult topic, isn't it? There is, you know, some systemic work needs to be done to make sure that people are not left alone, right? But when system is not there or not working, then you have such a tragic picture when tens of thousands of people are left alone, right, to deal with whatever issues they are facing, and you see 27,000 homeless in just one city. It's a lot. MI7 is commenting how many Zions live in Russia. What Zions? What that is, Zions? Zionists? Who knows, man? Who counted? If you mean how many Zionists live in Russia, I have no idea, by the way. I mean, no one counted. How many Zionists live in France? Did anyone knows how many Zionists live in US? And MI7, I have seen your question. I mean, there is no need to like. Ah, really? Ah, okay. Anya has blocked this MI7. So it's more than 3 hours, by the way, this live stream. So I mean, to share information about fundraising, out of $200, that was a target of today's live stream, today's fundraising, big community chat and the fundraising, we managed to reach 80, right? So thank you, of course. Thank you very much for community, for supporter. Maybe someday we will, reach 200 always, and that will keep this project in much more safer place than it is right now. But nevertheless, of course, I'm grateful for all the attention and support that I have from you, dear friends. So thank you. And I'm continuing to scroll. Oh, question, dear friends. I forgot to mention in the beginning that Yesterday, I published an interview with Alex Christoforou, one of the greatest leaders of the alternative media, I will say, from Duran, by the way, together with Alexander Mercouris, of course. And if you have not seen the interview, it's on my, it's out there on my YouTube and the Rumble channels. Check out. It's a short video, by the way. It's not like 2 hours long video, but I got the opportunity to ask a couple of questions, and of course I use this opportunity. And many thanks to Alex for finding time to meet and exchange opinions. And I have a comment now from Open Till Dusk. And question is, when you talk to Alex, are Alex and Alex worried about the war between EU and Russia escalating? Are they worried about everything they own going to zero because of hot war? I'm not sure. I do understand you mean are Western elites afraid of losing everything, going to hot war? Probably they do afraid to lose everything, right? But yet again, in my reading of the big picture, globalists are pushing for next phase of escalation. Globalists basically are pushing for prolongation of this war because they think if they lose this war, they are losing war not just with Russia, but they are losing war for their own existence, because they know they're gonna lose. After Russian victory is formalized, and this is going to happen, I think globalists are realizing that after that, it would not take much longer before they will lose any relevance whatsoever on geopolitical scale, right? And that's this fear of losing everything and the influence on the world stage is everything for them, right? This fear is forcing them to prolong this conflict with Russia as much as possible, to sacrifice more and more people, right? And that's why I said many times before that that until these criminals that are in charge of collective West, I mean globalists and so on, and the allies are being forced to act adequately, they're not gonna act. And fear of losing dominant position in the world is a much bigger fear for them than losing everything they have, right? Because for them, this being dominant is above everything, right? So that's why we are in a very dangerous times, because these people clearly are mentally ill. Globalists, globalist allies, these are mentally ill people, by the way, and anything can be expected from them, right? Stavros Karageorgis is asking, do you see any regional news sources to keep yourself informed of the actual situation in the Russian Federation's obviously many regions? I do, man. I constantly track information from regions. I myself have relatives in different regions, by the way, so I do know more or less what the hell is going on, right? I have relatives in the south, in the north, in the far east, by the way. I myself live in Moscow, so yes. And I do have a quite good understanding of what is going on, by the way. You know, whenever I share opinion, this opinion is based on all the knowledge, not just from open sources, but also from other sources that I have, right, on the matter. And whenever you share opinion, you don't go to specify based on what exactly is first, second, 10th, 15th, based on what exactly data your opinion is based. You just share opinion, and this is always the case in every field, isn't it? You just don't go into details, because if you go to specifics too much, it will take just too long, right? But of course, I know what is going on different regions, by the way. Anya is telling me now, and the stream. I guess everyone is tired because of the live stream. People, members of the family, are like restrained because they know Mike can take any noise and stuff. So okay, I'm so finalizing. Dear friends, okay, it's more than 3 hours. I guess we had a good conversation, isn't it? I guess we had a good conversation. I will end it right now. Of course, there were many questions that most likely I will not manage to answer. But next Sunday, let's continue next Sunday, and every day, dear friends, after streams, I'm joining community chat. So I'm probably most active member of the community. So there is always a possibility to exchange opinions. And dear friends, I will end live stream on that. Thank you very much for your attention. Many thanks to all the members of our community who donated today and who donated ever, before and now, who keeps me busy in this field of news and political commentary. Thank you all, dear friends. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.